Hi, and welcome to Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and joining me today is Rebecca Callen, who is the Calaveras County Auditor Controller. Rebecca, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Nice to have you on. You have somehow escaped our clutches for 2.5 years now?
That's correct.
When you were elected as the Auditor Controller, and this is the first time that you've held public office, is that correct?
Yes.
And we'll go into what went through your brain to make you do that. I still don't really understand why anyone serves as a public servant sometimes, because it really is a pretty stressful job that takes a pretty thick skin.
It does. I decided to run for office in 2010, the beginning of 2010, and I just thought I had a lot to offer. And I had a background in finance and accounting, and I also had a background in technology and systems administration. And I just saw that my predecessor was retiring, and there were some voids that the county had, and I felt that I could give back to our community by doing what I'm strong at. And so I decided to do it, but in order to do it, you have to run for office. So it was a long haul. It was very interesting, but I was successful at doing that.
In fact, you were very successful with more than 70% of the vote. But let's give the viewers a little idea of what got you the qualifications to win by such a large margin.
So I have been in Calaveras County since I was 4 years old, so quite a while. I won't say how old I am. But I grew up in McCollum Hill, and I went to McCollum Hill Elementary. And I've lived in all parts of the county. I've been in Burson and Valley Springs. I was in San Andreas for part of the time. And I really lived on that side of the county until I was 11. And then we moved to Angels Camp and then Murphy's. And then from there, I went to Bret Harte. And my family lives mainly over in Murphy's. And so from there, I graduated from Bret Harte and then went to CSU Chico. And graduated with a Bachelor of Science degree, Business Administration, Strategic Management. And then from there, I went to go work for Barclays Global Investors, which is an institutional investor. And at the time I worked for them, they were the largest institutional investor on the planet.
What does that mean, institutional investor?
They invest pensions.
Oh.
And so it was a lot of fund accounting, a lot of transition management for gigantic clients. And so it was a lot of numbers and a lot of facilitation on customer service and accounting and reporting. And by the time I was getting kind of close to my end of working there, I was doing a lot of system administration and project management for portfolio management and also fund accounting systems. So I left there in 2001 and decided to come back home because that was in Sacramento and San Francisco. And we had small children and we wanted to move back to the area. My husband and his father and mother and I all are partners in Wayne & Son Automotive in Angels Camp. And so my husband was commuting every day from Elk Grove to Angels Camp. So we decided, let's spend less time on the road and more time with family. So we made the decision to move back. So I have a deep root in Calaveras County, and my family has a deep root in Calaveras County. And I never really saw myself as running for office. That wasn't ever anything that I dreamt of. But the background for myself is very strong in all of those components that are important for an auditor controller in that office. And it came in very handy when I was running for office that I had deep roots from one end of the county to the other. So, I mean, I think that not only my background, but also how I have developed relationships over the years has certainly helped.
So, as a Bret Harte student, what did you like to do in Calaveras County? What kept you busy?
Growing up?
When you were growing up?
Swimming in the lake and boating and skiing, hiking and riding bikes on trails and just a lot of outdoors. We didn't have stoplights or Starbucks or much of that growing up, so you really had to go out and use the natural resources that were out there. So it's kind of nice, some of the luxuries that we have now, but we still try to get out there and do the same things.
So kind of now, do you think that you still share those same loves with your high school self, or have you kind of changed and you appreciate different things about the county?
I appreciate different things. Growing up, it's not big enough. It's too small, and you might find that it's boring, and you don't have that 24-hour luxuries that you have kind of in more metropolitan or suburban areas. But as you get older, you like that. Because it means I know where my kids are. That's the good and bad about small communities, is everybody knows what you're doing and you know what everyone else is doing. And but it's great when you're raising kids because it's kind of a village that is keeping an eye on all your children. So that has been a nice part. And also when your community needs something, everyone's available. And I think that I really appreciate, because you really don't have that in the larger areas. We lived in Elk Grove and kind of the Sacramento area, and there's pockets of that, but you definitely don't see that level of community when it's that large.
So great place to raise kids. I definitely hear that from a lot of people. And the slower lifestyle actually can be appealing when you're not raring to get to the city as a kid. I certainly have gone through that a little bit myself.
Yeah.
So you're back. You did some real estate. You came back from Barclays, you're spending time with family, you're still keeping busy, but then somehow you decided to run, and you've told me your qualifications, which are clearly there, but what really kind of pushed you over the edge to make the decision to actually go for a public office?
The decision for me wasn't so much that it was the public office, but it was just that department was in some dire need. It was definitely behind. When I took office, that office was at least 6 months behind in much of its reporting. And there was staff that was leaving and retiring. There was a lack of uniform procedures, and there was a lack of training over there. And just there was some definite cleanup that needed to happen. And I just didn't see who else would be capable of taking on that level, because that first year was really an extremely difficult time. We had the state controller's office living in my office for most of the first year. And it wasn't necessarily that we were in trouble, but it just happened to be that every audit that you could imagine was going on at the same time. And we didn't have the staff necessary to facilitate that. And so really, I lived there, unfortunately for my family, for the first year of being in office. So, but we got through it, and my staff is great, and I tried to take the burden off of them. I wanted them to at least have home life still. So, and that's important to me. So that's why I have a very good relationship with my staff, because I make sure that, I'm ultimately in control there, and it's really my decisions that I need to stand by. So I lead by example. So I try to be there every day, and I don't necessarily get vacations, and I'm always available 24/7. But that's the job.
Let me take you back to the campaign for a minute, because campaigns can be vicious, or they can be fun, or they can be surprising. And I think you maybe found some of all of that. But what were some things that really surprised you about your first foray into running for something?
I think when I went in, I thought I'm the most qualified person that could ever run for the job. So it just didn't even dawn on me. I just felt like, I'm going to give it my best, and everyone's going to see that how qualified I am and what my background is and why I am the best person for the job. And that vote is going to correlate with that. And that's not the case. Voting is personal. And that's what I learned on the campaign, is that it's personal. And people have personal reasons why they vote one way or another. It could be the party that you affiliate with. I had people not vote for me because I was a woman. I had people not vote for me because I'm too young looking. I had people not vote for me because they may have had a bad experience with a long-lost family member. I don't control that, and I can't fault them for how they vote. We're all allowed to vote however we want to vote, but I think the frustrating part was that if it was based on who was the most qualified, I would have had 100% of the vote. and I had a landslide, but I still, I guess, was disappointed that it wasn't 100% or 99.9%. But the reality is, it never is going to be, because you're always going to have that section of the population that, for whatever reason, they're just not going to vote for you. And it's a personal decision that everybody has. And I did have to stop reading newspapers for a while, and don't go on Facebook, and don't, read blogs. Because people read into anything and everything that you do. And so you kind of have to stand back and just evaluate that you got to do the best job that you can, and you got to be pleased with how you're doing it.
How many people were running against you?
One.
And who was that?
Carl Stoughton.
Carl Stoughton.
Yes.
Okay. So you did have a race, but it turned out that in the primary, if there are only two, then whoever takes that's going to go.
Correct.
Going to take it. Whereas if you had three or more, then you have to get 50% plus one to
Yes.
take it in the primary. And I'd forgotten that you only had one other one, so of course you won in the primary.
Yep.
So going in, what was your attitude? I'm going to take this, or was it I could lose this?
I could lose it.
Okay.
I could lose it. And it was mainly because, on day one, I thought, I'm going to do this, and I'm just, that's not going to be a problem. But shortly after that, he entered the race, and then I wasn't by myself. And then from the moment that he started running, I knew that I could feel as confident as I possibly could, and it doesn't really matter. So, he could have beat me. Anyone could have beat me, because it like I said, it doesn't correlate with, it correlates with how you address yourself with the constituents and the voters and getting out there. And it's a true campaign. I mean, it was 5-6 days a week, every single day. And, you don't see your family, you're eating on the run, and you work all day, and then you got to, kind of put some makeup back on, do your hair, and get back out there. But that was the reality for the entire campaign, and it was a really busy campaign. We have a large geographically spanned out county, and so you couldn't risk not reaching out to every section of the county base.
You won by the landslide. You're not able to just jump into the job. You have to then wait for months and months and months until you were sworn in, which was when, January?
January of 2011. So
Okay.
you win in June, and you can't take office until January, yes.
So that must have been something that tested your patience, especially you seem like someone who likes to get things done and just jump in.
Yes.
And you're seeing this office, which is kind of drowning.
Yes.
And you can't do anything about it. How
No.
did you handle that for the summer?
I
fall?
just tried, yeah, exactly.
And winter.
Yeah. I just tried to make myself available. So I really reached out to my predecessor and said, look, if there is anything that you need, I'm available. I realize it's still your office. These are still your decisions to make. But if you need assistance, I am completely here for you and for that office.
Who was your predecessor?
Linda Churches.
And she was kind of a long time.
She was a long-time auditor controller.
So when you did take office, did you feel like Linda worked well with you to kind of get you in there, or did you kind of have to stand back until it was your turn?
Stand back till it was my turn.
Okay. Which, just depends on the person.
Yep.
So when you did take the chair and you had the reins,
Yep.
what did you do?
I had to kind of triage it. What are we outstanding? Reach out to our independent auditor, reach out to the state controller's office, reach out to anyone that would have any information about where we stood. And we didn't stand in a really great way. And so I just had to roll my sleeves up and, park it in the office and get it done. So if it meant, driving wherever I needed to drive, however meetings I needed to have, however many hours we needed to stay there, we just had to get it done because we were under the gun. The 9/10 audit hadn't been done, and that was from 6/30/10. And it still hadn't been submitted, and we were in 2011. So we had a lot of catch up to do, and I had a lot of education that I needed to do with the board. And I'm taking on things that I didn't make any of those decisions, and I didn't have anything to do with how we got to where we got. But I have to fix it, and I have to put everything back where it needs to go. And then ultimately, it's my responsibility to educate the board and educate the public and make amends to whatever we need to make amends to and make it work.
There was I don't know if it was the audit, but it's 6 months behind. You almost had to beg to get an extension.
Yes. Yes.
And that was granted.
That was granted, and it got done. And we just, we tried to call in whatever favors we possibly could. It wasn't out of, negligence that it wasn't getting done. It was just that staff just didn't have the time to do it, and they just got buried. And then they got held up on putting out fires, and things just got away from them. And so we needed to get back in there.
How long did it take you to, and the staff, obviously, you can't do it on your own,
Right.
to get to where you felt as though, okay, I can take a deep breath and I can look around past these fires that I'm putting out? How long did that take?
It took a good year. It really did take a good year. We still have our kind of bumps today, but it's nothing like it was in the first year at all. I mean, now I can, I may only stay till 6 or 7. I won't stay till 8. And I can eat lunch, which is nice. I can, on occasion, take a day off. My phone's never off. No matter where I am, I'm still always available because I still have to respond to email or, take requests or, try to help where I can. But I can at least leave my desk. So I think that's progress.
Let's say I'm a Calaveras County resident and I've never even heard of the Auditor Controller. What is it that people should know about what you do in the office and what your responsibilities are?
Well, I kind of brought a list because most people have no idea what the Auditor Controller's Office does. And what I found even campaigning is a lot of people confuse the Auditor Controller with the Treasurer Tax Collector
Yeah, you
and
tax
with the
us.
assessor.
Yeah, you tax us
Yes.
and we don't like you, right?
Yes, exactly. So what I just kind of jokingly I say, no. The assessor assesses your property. The tax collector is who you have to write that giant check to, and I'm the one that gives you the refund, because all the checks come out of my office. But ultimately, the Auditor Controller is the Chief Accounting Officer for the county. So any disbursements that happen out of our treasury have to go through my office.
I just got a check from you.
There you
Thank
go.
you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Also, any money that comes in goes through my office as well. So we're accounting for all the money that comes in and all the money that goes out.
And you're kind of a watchdog, right?
We're a watchdog, and we're ensuring that everybody is adhering to policy and procedure and also statutes, basically the law. We also prepare all the reporting, so whether it's state reporting or federal reporting, grant reporting, any certifications that have to happen, that all comes through my office. We do all the public reporting. So if you're the public and you want a public records request with regards to financial information, it's going through my office. And so we're preparing that information. We do the payroll for all of the county. Wow. We also do all of the PERS reporting. And
PERS is?
That's the pension, so the California Public Employee Retirement System. We do all the property tax management. So like I said, the assessor assesses the parcels, but we calculate all the property taxes. And we also pay all the debt service. So all the bonds that have to be paid all go through my office, all the debt service. We do all the trial court collection reporting. So the courts collect the fees, but it all goes through my office. And we're the ones that ultimately pay the state. We do all the special district accounting services, so fire districts, veterans, cemetery districts, school districts, all of that goes through my office.
Really?
It does.
Wow, there are a lot of special districts.
There is a lot of special districts. We have a lot of special districts for a little county. We also do the countywide budget development and accounting. We assist the administrative office with that budget development and getting them accurate financial data so that they can understand what the trends have been for revenue or expenditures. We also do the federal indirect cost plan, which is, you'll hear the phrase A87 thrown around in budget. And it's a mechanism for central service departments like myself, We're not revenue generating.
Okay, so explain that while we're on it.
So I can't charge you for much. So in essence, my office is paid for by the general fund by discretionary dollars, generally comes through as property taxes, and then that goes to the operations. But in order to pay your bills, you have to go through my office. And in order to pay your employees, you have to go through my office. So I'm offering service and providing service to all the county departments and all the special districts. But I can't really charge you for it, except through an indirect cost plan. And so the idea is that if you're receiving federal funding, there is an overhead cost that you don't control, and that's me, or the treasurer, or the administrative office, or buildings and grounds. And you should be able to recoup some of those monies through those federal sources. So it's a mechanism for us to get some revenue back from outside sources. And so my office takes care of that plan. We also administer the state mandated claims process. So when the state mandates the county to do certain functions and the state says, well, yeah, we'll pay you for it, what they really mean is we'll pay you for it someday. But we have to keep track of all those claims, and we have to work to submit those claims to the state so that someday we will get paid, should the day come that the state will pay us.
Even though most seem to be unfunded mandates.
Most of them are unfunded mandates, but if it is a funded mandate,
Then
we will track it down, and someday we're getting that money. It may only be, a dime on the dollar, but we're going to try to get it. We also handle all of the sales tax, so all of the sales tax reporting for the county. We also have a purchasing card program that we have through the county, and that just helps facilitate our accounts payable process so we can use credit cards here. And we also help monitor all the escheatment. So similarly, how the state has that escheatment program that you can go through, and they might have long lost money from an uncle somewhere. We also have an escheatment program at the county. And so we monitor all those outstanding warrants that I may have sent you a check, 2 years ago, but you never cashed it. Mm-hmm. So we're keeping track of that so that we can report that out, get it to the hands that it needs to go to, and if not, then it comes back to the county into our coffers. And then we're also in charge of keeping track of all the capital assets. So whether it's a county maintained road or a truck or a building, we're in charge of keeping track of all of those assets and keeping them on the books. So we have a very, very busy office, and there's only 9 of us, including myself. So I have one dedicated person to property taxes, one dedicated person to payroll, and everyone else is dedicated to general services.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot.
That's a lot. I can see why if you were behind plus having to do all that, you'd be kind of swimming with your head under, barely above water.
Yes.
The staff members, there are 9 including you. Mm-hmm. What are, you said a couple of the positions, but are they basically all working so hard that there's no time for anything? Are you understaffed? Are you overstaffed? Where do you fall?
We're understaffed for sure.
By how much?
I would say legitimately we're probably understaffed by a full body. Okay. And that's mainly, it hurts when someone's on vacation or someone's sick. There is no coverage. So as opposed to if we had that one additional person and you come to my office and you need something, I don't have to say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to come back tomorrow, or we'll have to work on it next week, because that's the answer right now. Because they're gone and they're not here, and we are completely booked in what we're doing already. So if there was a few more hours in the day, I would certainly be able to help you, but that's kind of where we're at. And certainly there's many departments that are in the same predicament that we are, but we're at that level that we're doing as much as we can. And I am a huge efficiency person, so if I can find a faster way, better way of doing it, I will. And so we've kind of already grabbed all the low-lying fruit, and I've run out of options. So we're doing the best that we can right now.
And what's cool about you is you tell your staff, I want to hear about a more efficient way of doing something, and if you can figure out a smarter way of doing it, a fast way of doing it, you bring that to me, and we'll see if we can implement it, right?
Yes.
That's a really neat policy, I think.
I promoted that as soon as I took office. That was historically not the case in my office. And so it took them some time to kind of get that through their heads, that I really do want them to own their process. I want them to own what they're doing, and I want them to feel comfortable that they can promote change. And it doesn't mean that I am, handing it over and they can do whatever they want and just run with it. But I want them to feel confident enough that they can bring that to me and say, you know what, we've been doing it this way for the last 5 years and I don't understand why we're doing it this way. Okay, well, let's sit down and figure that out. And you know what, you're right. I don't understand why you're doing that. And that may have made sense 5 years ago, but it doesn't make sense today. So I'm all about change wherever it is, and we'll change what we can.
As you said, you're all about change. I think I'm seeing evidence of that. And as part of that, you have become what I would characterize as a polarizing figure. Mm-hmm. Some people like you, some people don't mm-hmm. in the county. And I think a big part of that is once you got to where you were comfortable in your new position mm-hmm. and you got caught up, you started stirring some stuff up.
Yep.
Not necessarily because that's what you enjoy, but because you, from what you've told me, felt it was your responsibility to do so. And just some quick examples, since we're getting short on time, is there was a controversial raise that Public Works Director Tom Garcia got through means that you kind of questioned. And you brought that to a public forum instead of perhaps some things happening behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. That caused a big community-wide discussion.
Yep.
And it was really analyzed in a much more in-depth detail. And the raise did end up going through, but it went through in a different manner than mm-hmm. it would have. Another example is paying snowplow people. Was it overtime or something?
It was paying them overtime.
Paying them overtime. That ended up stopping because it wasn't in accordance with county policies. You kind of made that happen as well. These decisions are things that maybe have happened a certain way that, mm-hmm. that you are saying, well, maybe they shouldn't happen this way. So in the last minute that we have, why are you taking these stands and doing things that might not make you popular?
This isn't our money. This is taxpayer money, and we are expected to spend it in a responsible manner. And when you see the pie shrinking as much as we've seen it, 25% reduction in property tax value, which means 25% reduction in revenue, we don't have the money to spare. And the bottom line is more and more taxpayers are coming forward and asking, are we spending their money in a fiduciarily responsible way? And I can't always say that we are. And so it's important that we all understand that this is not our money. This is the taxpayers' money, and they're entrusting us to do the best thing with it. And so it's important that we follow procedure, it's important that we follow policy and statute, and that we spend it on what needs to be spent. And we do it all on the up and up. It needs to be transparent because, I need to stand behind how I'm spending that. And if I make the choice to spend on whatever I choose to spend it on, and that ends up, invoking rage in the taxpayer, I'm probably not going to get reelected. That's the reality. And so we're looking for reasonableness.
If people wanted to contact your office, what number would they call?
They can call our main line, and that's 754-6343. And you can always reach us on the website as well. I've dedicated a website just to the auditor's office. We have a lot of information on there as well.
Great. And just for the viewers' knowledge, you're planning to run again unless something changes?
I am absolutely planning to run again,
okay.
Yes.
Rebecca, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for joining me on this edition of Inside View. I'm your host, Joel Metzger, and I hope to see you right here next time.